Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you guys my final thoughts on this beast of a knife. This is the Civivi Knives Vexum. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This is one wild looking knife, and I got a lot of good to say about this thing. If you don't even care to watch the rest of this video, just know I highly recommend it. It's awesome. It feels way better than any other thing that I've checked out from civivi that is a standard liner lock type of locking knife. I've had handled button locks and the super lock by Snex, of course, but as liner locks go, this thing is freaking flawless. I love it. Yeah, this is what I can come to expect from the newer civivis from this year and moving forward. Yeah, this is pretty sweet right here. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So this is a big freaking knife. Let's talk about price and the variations. There are 3 different variations of this, different colorways. 2 of them have blacked out blades. One is fully black G10, black freaking everything else. One is black hardware, black blade, and OD green scales. This is the only one with a little bit of pop of color. Unfortunately, it's satin silver hardware, but you get this cool black and blue G-Mascus. This is the one that really, pushed me over to get this. I did buy it off of Amazon. I will link down where exactly I got it from. It wasn't on sale or anything. I paid technically full price for it. It was 95 bucks. So just under $100. This qualifies, at least on my channel, to be a budget knife. It gets really close, especially after taxes. I think it might have actually been a buck or two over, but we're just talking about what it is, the price as is. So it's a budget knife on this channel. And this is a lot of budget knife. This is a lot of good stuff here. From the blade material, how it's ground, the shape, the ergonomics, the fit and finish of everything, the engagement, the disengagement, the jimping, the studs, the different stud design. There's so much to go over here. I don't want to make this super long because it's just going to be a ramble rant of just positivity. And hey, if you need some positivity in your life, then just put on this video, right? So eventually I do want to make a video showing why it's better. Is it even better to buy civivi over Sencut? That's for a later topic, but I have a Sencut model here that I want to show off just for example. But so 95 bucks for the price, 3 different variations. Let's take the weight. This thing is a beast of a freaking knife, and the only thing that's different about this is that I actually currently have some skiff thick washers in here. That is just a personal preference. Washers are known to have tighter, more hydraulic action, and it's just going to stay cleaner for a longer period of time. Maintenance is a whole lot easier. You could spend a whole lot more time using the knife versus something with bearings. This comes standard with bearings, and the action is unbelievable on bearings. It's pretty dangerous because this is a huge freaking blade. So this thing is absolute guillotine, drop shut, lose a couple fingers in the process kind of knife. So that's also why I opted for washers, because I kind of like my fingers. 6.2, yeah, sounds about right. This thing is a fat one for sure. And even still, there is a lot of internal weight relieving, a good bit of it, definitely. Let's do some size comparisons. This thing, I believe, is the largest knife I currently own and use and carry, right? But we have something that's pretty darn close. This is the Microtech MSI full titanium. I got these scales off of Original Goat. This was from their first batch. Love these freaking scales, they're so awesome. These are damn near the same overall tip to tail. If anything, the Vexum looks like it's a little bit longer, but not by much. It can't be by much. Mannix 2 Lightweight by Spyderco looks freaking tiny. It looks like a mini Mannix, which would, but Spyderco, hey Spyderco, mini Mannix, make it happen. That'd be pretty sweet. Let the Taiwan plant make it. I think that would come at a pretty sweet price. Yeah, I am all for US production, but I think making a Taiwan mini Mannix, that would be kind of cool, right? Here we have another civivi. I have very few civivis in my collection because, well, a lot of them are pretty sweet. Not many actually stick around. This one has stuck around for quite some time. The civivi Vision FG. Then we have here the CMB Made Knives Predator. As you guys can see, these knives that I would consider to be medium to full-size knives are just dwarfed, absolutely dwarfed by the Vexum here. And then some other stuff that's damn near pointless to even bother showing off because this is just gonna outsize everything. The Free Tiger model FT2103, Spyderco Native 5, and then last is going to be the CJRB, I was about to say CMB, the CJRB Pyrite Light. This is the website exclusive with the rose gold blade. So yeah, did size comparisons, talk about price, we got the weight. Let's just talk about this thing. Let's just break it down, do some up and closies, talk about the materials that are being used here. We already went over the scale material, but again, we'll talk a little bit more in depth about it. The blade material here, Nitro V, coming from Civivi, their Nitro V, sick. I love it. I love their Nitro V. I love that they are able to bring it at this price point. A lot of people would consider it to be a mid-range budget steel. In my opinion, I would call it a budget super steel. It's awesome to sharpen, very easy to sharpen, holds a good edge, can take a amazing edge. Corrosion resistance is plenty good, and durability, it's pretty sweet as well. And especially on something that is a little bit more robust like this. Now, even the Vision FG, that one, the regular versions come with Nitro V, and that one is a little bit thinner behind the edge. I haven't really seen anybody have any major rolls or chipping issues and things like that. So Civivi is doing Nitro V right, and it makes me happy to hear that. The edge that I put on here, this is a 16-degree edge, and from tip to heel, it is beautifully consistent. I reprofiled it and then sharpened it one time after doing a bunch of, I guess, cardboard destruction, just edge retention testing, just seeing how this feels ergonomically speaking, and then the usability of this blade shape. Now we can talk about the blade shape. It's pretty wild. You have I wouldn't say a double harpoon, but there's a harpoon, right? And this is not flat, that is actually a clip. So a harpooned clip point blade, a low tipped harpoon clip point blade. It's just this massive wacky looking thing, but despite it looking so odd and very visually aggressive, functionally speaking, this thing is awesome. And while I no longer need a super utilitarian blade shape in my place of work, I still do a lot of cardboard destruction and utility necessary things in my home place, right? So this thing has stood up to all the testing that I personally needed to hold up to. Because there is a satin finish applied to this, I have already put in a good couple scrapes. You'll only really be able to pick them up in certain reflections of light. And I know there's a couple on this side. My camera's not doing the best job of picking them up. They're very faint little scratches, but they're kind of all over the place. It's satin. It's the satin finish. That's just what it's gonna do. I'm not a fan of it, but for what it is, I can't complain. The PVD coated ones, or whatever they're using to coat it, I'm pretty sure they're using PVD. They didn't look like they were the stone washed PVD. It just looked like a flat, cheapy kind of PVD, and I will show you right now exactly what I mean. This is another older civivi model that had a stone wash from the factory. So it's a stone wash PVD, and then I don't actually have a regular PVD from civivi to show off, but I have something else that is pretty freaking close. Come on. No, that's not gonna do it any justice. We'll just bring this guy out right here. This Free Tiger. So this is a thick, healthy coating, PVD coating right here. It's good stuff. It's applied to D2. Not too much of a fancy blade material, but it's good for what it is. This is a $30 budget knife, right? But this is flat, no visual surface texture PVD. And then this has a wash over it. You see it's significantly lighter. You could see the crackles and scrapes in different angles of light there. This is what I wish the OD green and the full blacked out one would have had applied to it. But from the pictures, it looked like it was something like this. And I didn't like it. I wanted something that had a stone wash now. Could I have done it myself? Potentially, but I technically haven't done it yet. That's something that I will probably try to experiment with in the future, because it can't be that hard, right? But this is the one that I decided to go with. So I gotta just take the scratches, right? It's gonna happen. Another cool little feature on the blade is that there's nothing on the blade. There's no marks. There's no designer. This was an in-house design as far as I know. The blade steel stamp is just faintly printed, laser printed down there. It's basically invisible. You really gotta look for it. So the blade is completely sterile. It's freaking beautiful. I love it. Also, the studs. These studs are sick. I love them so much. They are aggressive enough. Visually speaking, I think they're a huge departure from what civivi typically does, and I like it. I really do like it. Now, I would like to take these off eventually to put my own heavy acid stone washing on this blade, because I think it would fit the part. But chances are I'm gonna need to be very careful when taking these off, because I'm gonna have to take 2 pliers to split them, twist them off. They most likely have threads. I highly doubt that they are pressure fit washers. Civivi doesn't really do that as far as I know. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the blade. Attached to the blade is also this flipper tab. It is, well, again, I'm not a huge flipper tab fan. This is executed perfect. If I were to have a flipper tab, this is exactly what I would want. It is a short, stumpy flipper tab with aggressive enough fine jimping all the way around the entire surface of the top and back here, which you never really engage with, but it has jimping. And even with washers, this thing flies and it locks out beautifully. Now, we can move and talk about the lock itself. It's a standard liner lock. You can see in there is a significant amount of weight relieving, and a lot of the structural rigidity, I will say, is attributed to how thick these contoured and diamond milled G10 scales are. So the liners are there just kind of cuz. For structural rigidity, it doesn't need it. I think it's just fine with the G10, but that's how they decided to construct this, right? And then they could have saved a little bit of weight, but because this is just a right carry only, they don't offer it to mount it to the other side. I think that's a little silly. This is still a budget knife, and I'm sure a lot of lefties would have loved to have been able to carry this. And if they still want to get it, I mean, a lot of lefties do carry right-handed pocket knives, right? But talking about the liner itself, you have the typical ceramic detent ball, and the engagement, the space right here. There is plenty of room. It is nice and comfy. There are these, I wouldn't say scallops, but there's these little milled out pieces, and the liner itself is rounded off in a way that it's just, it feels so premium. Like the disengagement of this, it feels and reminds me of some multi-$100 pocket knives that I've checked out in the past. It's excellent. This is truly the finest disengagement that I've ever been able to experience from civivi, from Sencut, and all the way up to WE. Now, while I haven't handled a lot of new WE Knife Co. production knives, the ones that I have handled in the past, this thing blows them out of the water. So I mean, there were a few WEs that I've been able to experience in the past, and this thing, the disengagement is just luxuriously comfortable. I love it. Plenty of room, it's wide enough. I'm not pinching myself against the inner lining of that G10 scale. It looks rather crisp and maybe a little sharp right there, but it's not. It's knocked down just enough. It's not snagging. I even really rubbing my thumb into it. I can't feel that harsh edge. And that liner is proud, so it sticks out a little bit over, so you'll never really get pinched between there. But again, the lockup of this thing is beautiful. It sounds great. It feels great. It's damn near absolute for what a liner lock can do. Up and down, nothing. Side to side, it's tuned for washers, so very minimal side to side. Is there any movement within the pivot? The tiniest bit, but that's something that you can come to expect from civivis. That's pretty normal, but it is probably the least amount of pivot movement I've ever experienced. Any detent lash? Zero. Absolutely no movement in there, and that is something that I know that's telling me that civivi is doing something drastically different with their newer stuff, because a lot of civivis that I've had in the past that were traditional detent having liner or frame lock knives, eventually within the first couple months of ownership and use, not hard use and abuse, but just typical day-to-day fidgeting and use, I would eventually get to a point where I can feel the tiniest bit of slip in that detent, because either the steel was soft or maybe machined a little awkwardly, but this thing is beautiful. This does not feel, in my opinion, like $100 knife. If you were to put this in my hands and I didn't know what it looked like, if I just looked away for a second, this feels like a much more expensive knife than the price would actually suggest. And then I look at it and I see the satin and the G10 and the steel bent clip, and I'm like, oh, it's a budget civivi. Well, when you look away for a second and you just imagine, I mean, this could be something completely different. This thing feels wonderful. And I know I'm saying a lot of good gushy stuff about this thing. I bought this. This wasn't sent to me. No one is holding a gun to my head right now, I promise. I love this thing. It's a large departure of the stuff that I typically would buy. And as I mentioned earlier, this is wild for what I would ever need to carry day to day. You have a large exaggerated finger troll that would accommodate people with much thicker fingers than I have. I have large XR size hands, but slimmer fingers, so I barely fill in that finger troll right there. Resting in this harpoon spot right here, it's not crowned, but it's not crisp either. It's well rounded off and pretty comfortable. It would have been cool if the jimping followed up all the way through, but hey, at least there's some back here if you wanted to be back here. But up here you get maximum grip and just really just pushing through material. Would have been sweet if this was a hollow grind, but it's not. It's fine that it's flat. It fits the bill for it being a robust knife, right? We can talk about the hardware that's being used here. T8s all over, body screws, pivot. The only difference is the pocket clip. Those are T6. I believe the premium pocket clip that civivi sells on Amazon as well should fit this and should be the same length to fit right over that flat spot. Take a look at that. They have thought about everything that I would complain about, oh, the texturing, it's gonna rip up my pants, because I've said that before, right? And I know you guys know I have. There's a flat spot under there. This thing is immaculate in and out of the pocket. Super smooth, buttery smooth. I love it. Plenty of room for all different types of I guess seam thickness for your pockets, whether it's shorts, work pants, slacks. Don't have this in slacks. Your pants are gonna fall to your ankles with this thing because of just its overall just badassery and presence. Yeah, I wouldn't have this in slacks, that's for sure. Taking a look at, I guess, through the knife, I'd say it's a pretty safe design. This is something I haven't touched on in a long time because I haven't really needed to point it out, but the tip is buried down well enough. My nails are super short and I can't pick it out. If they were a little bit longer, I might be able to like touch that tip, but I'm asking for it, right? You're really asking for it, but it's not gonna do nothing to you. If you rub your hand on it, it's not gonna poke you and just come out. So it's tucked in very well deep in there. They've absolutely maximized, excuse me, my voice is cracking at almost 26 years old. They've absolutely maximized the amount of blade length, usable blade length, fitting it into this thing, into the handle here. You can see how close it is. You do have a little back spacer that has some texturing there, some jimps or mills right there. It doesn't carry over to this spot over here, which I think it's a little silly, because it's here but not here. I think that's a little odd. Either have it flat all over, which would have been fine, but if you have the texture here, why not have put it there too? Whatever, not a big deal. You have a lanyard post back there, so there's no ugly ass hole in the profile of, you know, the blade itself. We already talked about the pod clip, the hardware, the back spacer. Like, there's really not much else to talk about. You do have the stop pin in a traditional position. I think it would have been pretty awesome if they did garage stops on this, because that's technically double the surface contact for lockup, side to side movement as well, and it would have just fit the bill a little bit more. But hey, maybe that would have put this thing over the $100 price point, probably. But for being a stop pin, that's a pretty robust looking stop pin, and I genuinely don't have any like actual complaints or foresee any possible issues with that. If someone really wanted to chop that flipper tab, which I won't, even though if this was like large and kind of awkward looking, I probably would, but the flipper tab is so low profile, I can care less. I think it's wonderful how they designed it, the functionality, it's all there, and it doesn't stick out and look ugly when it's deployed. That's a big thing for me. Just a visual preference, that's all it is. I'm not talking about functionality or using it as a guard or anything like that. I'm just saying, visually speaking, most of the time I think flipper tabs are ugly. But if you, for whatever reason, really want to chop it, you could. There's plenty of room back there to remove it and still have proper solid contact. And then, yeah, the engagement spot is way back there, so you can chop that up. You would never want to do anything in here because the plunge grind and sharpening choil is essentially a giant finger choil. It's awesome. It's as good as it gets for a design. I can sharpen this thing a bajillion times and probably will never create a smile because the actual tapering of the plunge doesn't start to like back over here. That's a lot of life. That's a lot of blade life, a lot of good times with this thing that you can put this thing through. So for $100 or 95 bucks, yeah, 95 to $100, this is a deal. This is a actual real deal. There was one individual that commented that said that they believe that because they heard from another content creator that, mind you, got the knife for free, most likely, that content creator stated that they think it's a little much for the price. And while I am a picky bastard, and I would probably fall in line and say, yeah, it is kind of a good bit of money, but for what I have experienced through Civivi in the past, this is actually a huge improvement and well worth the price, in my opinion. I think this is all of just barely making that price of $100. I think that this is money well spent. If this is a design that you like and you like bearings because it comes with bearings, great. If you want to spend $6, $5 and some change on some American made washers by Skiffs, go ahead, and it'll be one hell of a treat. Again, this is running on washers and it is still buttery smooth even with the flipper tab. And while the flipper tab is in line with the pivot, and you don't have a whole lot of leverage that you would typically consider when designing a knife that has a flipper tab, everything in the pivot is just machined so beautifully that it's just coming out. It's super slick, super smooth. I love it. So yeah, that's it. It's a full 25 minutes and some change of me gushing about a big freaking knife that I honestly will never use to its full potential, right? So, but I love this thing regardless. If you guys like this video, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing because I play more videos and content coming you guys' way. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.